Hi, Danny Brough from MMA UK. We're here at Manchester Top Team Gym and we're with Frank Mert, the legend. Great to see you at Manchester. What brings you here, mate?
Well, I'm coming out here. Carl Prince, my head coach, I haven't come to the States, and he was staying with me for a little while, and he came back out here again. So I basically came out, I set up at the beginning with just for training purposes, come out for a month, do some seminars, because I think that's part of my training. It helps me sharpen myself. And he's having the grand opening of his Manchester top team here, so I'm a part of it.
Brilliant session we've just seen you through. You can tell how much you're not only passionate about what you do, but how passionate you are about following that on to other people. Is that something you've always had?
Possibly. I think I was like sharing knowledge. I think I was like most people. I was sharing my knowledge more and less to impress people with what I knew. And now I realize it's more or less I just want you to be better at it.
And obviously, big year for the guys here, big year for yourself. Do you know what's coming up for you this year?
No, not yet. Still waiting to hear some feedback from Bellator on what they're going to do.
Yeah. So obviously, I know Brian, Lacey and Brad have been having a bit of fun on the road. I believe you're doing some commentating now. Is that something that you're really enjoying?
Yeah, I've always done commentary. I've done it ever since I first started my UFC career. I was back in UFC 57. I think the first time I commentated. Then worked into doing WEC for a couple of years until they got absorbed into the UFC. And then after that, I've done some stage, table work, analyst work for Bellator. A lot of commentary for the ACB. I did that with Brian Lacey. We did that for about 3 years before they became the ACA. And now working for XFN and then just kind of freelancing around different shows to do commentary.
Obviously, you're a pioneer of the sport. You've watched it grow in America. What's it like to see places like this coming over in England now? Because it's still really new and early sport for us. But was it the same for you growing up? Was MMA something new, or was the fundamentals always there?
No, MMA actually was just being created back when I first started out as a teenager. In fact, the first UFC in '93, I was only 14. So that back then it was style versus style, and not what it is today, what it's grown into where it's a style in and of itself.
So obviously seeing it in England, what's happening now? Can you see us getting as big as the Americans now? I know we've got a few stars coming up, but can you actually see us maybe topping some people in the world?
Well, I think, there's always going to be guys that beat, but consistently the only thing that holds the British fighters back is that in America, wrestling is part of our scholastics curriculum. So you have guys that wear suits and go to work that know how to wrestle. In the UK, you shoot a double on somebody and you're winning the fight.
And is that where you'd rather see the fight go, on the ground nowadays, or do you prefer to get in a bit of a slugfest sometimes?
Well, I think throwing punches in itself is just, for me, I think that's just the opportunity to go to a different aspect of the game. Ultimately, MMA should be about chokes and submissions. If you just want to see people throw and not, I always laugh when guys go to an MMA fight, they get mad, they go to the ground, I'm all, go to boxing. There's a sport meant for you. This sport incorporates all aspects: jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, and so it's who's the best martial artist all around, all aspects. So I don't know if I prefer one aspect more than another. I think it should all be in its totality trained.
Now I've got a bit of a fan question here, so don't blame me for this one. If you, obviously the only probably chance this will ever happen, would you ever consider WWE so you could get a chance at Brock again?
I would like to. I've been playing around a little bit of pro wrestling too with Austin Aries back in Vegas. I think professional wrestling is just like like making movies. Keanu Reeves, I very much enjoy watching the John Wick series. I don't sit there and go, "Oh, this is fake. Oh, that was a stunt man. Oh, those aren't real bullets." I get consumed in the theater of what I'm watching, and I like that it's based upon realism. So with the pro wrestling, I like the moves and the characters that use realistic maneuvers. Sometimes when I see things that are too far-fetched, just like watching a movie, it reminds me that I'm watching something that's not real, and then I lose interest. I think it's easier, and I think the realism is what I'm more infatuated with.
Yeah, it must be quite annoying because some people are sat on the couch saying, "Oh, it's not real on this," but I bet if you actually go and do it, the actual instruction's real, your body, the impact's real.
Yeah, that's the funny part. When people say that, I'm like, well, what do you mean? As far as like the outcome, you're right. We all know what the outcome's going to be in the back room. But as far as the movement, it's dangerous still. In fact, if your partner doesn't cooperate the right way or he misses a cue, doesn't have a right read, you can severely cripple yourself. So when you say not real, I hate that expression because that doesn't make sense to me. That's like saying, well, soccer's not real. You're not supposed to get hurt. You're not allowed to hit each other. So how tough can they really be? Well, lots of injuries there too. So it's still a violent sport, and wrestling is still very violent on the body. Is there, is there suspense of knowing how you're going to compete to that? No, but the suspense of jumping off a top rope and trying to make sure that you don't break your neck is very much real.
I was a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan growing up, so who was yours? More of a Hulk Hogan or someone even before my time?
Who did I like the most growing up? I think I was always, well, it's funny, certain guys I was a fan of, but I think watching Mr. Perfect, because the moves and the ability to move around, I could tell that he was a really good martial artist.
So that's it, Mr. Perfect's the one for you. What about boxing-wise? 'Cause obviously, you say as you were growing up, MMA was just coming out. I'm assuming boxing was more your thing as a young one, who kind of inspired you from an early age.
Obviously, he was before my time, but one of my favorite boxers was Larry Holmes, the heavyweight. I felt that he was very technical and really was beating people. Sometimes when I watch a person win because they're a great athlete, not that it's not impressive, but it's hard for me to pull anything from that if I don't have those same athletic skills that they have. Whereas when I watch somebody who's not necessarily the greatest athlete also be extremely efficient and smart, to me that's a real samurai. That's using his mind and using technique and leverage and timing and what athletic ability he does have. So I've always been more impressed with that. It's hard, I think Deontay Wilder's a phenomenal boxer, right? Very powerful, but I mean, he has a super long reach. He's taller than I am. His right hand might be the most powerful cross in all of boxing that's ever existed. I'm much more of a fan of Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury, even though he does have athleticism, he's tall, but you can see he's slick and he uses his mind and his strategy. Those are things that I could learn. I don't know if I could go do a Deontay Wilder seminar and use anything, where I feel like if I went to a Tyson Fury seminar, listening to him talk about how to overcome adversity or listening to him talk about life, I probably would pull more from.
Obviously, it's nice to hear you talking about other people like that. You're obviously, one of the biggest names in the sport and a massive inspiration to everyone. Do you actually feel that? Do you actually realise how much of impact you've had on the sport around the world? Or are you quite oblivious to it all, that you are like one of the main heavyweights to ever bless the sport?
Oh, thanks for the compliment. I actually don't think I've ever sat back and thought about it. I'm just another person who contributes, and people happen to listen to me, but it allows them to also talk to me. So, yesterday I was doing a seminar in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and after the seminar, one of the guys was showing different moves as far as going from a front headlock to an ankle lock and how he used his head to position it. And so I'm always in a position where people want to share things with me, so I'm very much blessed in that way.
Well, thank you for speaking to me, and enjoy the rest of the day. I hope it's a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers for that. Thanks.